Diary, hello. It's the beginning of December 2020, and the theme of this video tutorial is going to be virtual private networks and virtual private network servers and virtual private network gateways. But in the process, I wanted to document the ever-changing and morphing configuration of our quite extensive home computer network. So, if you can just bear with me, I'm going to try and give it a go. So what you see in front of you is the networking configuration in England, which we put in place about 3 years ago. And a lot of it's changed, but I wanted to show where it's come from so you can get an idea of my paranoia and design, which was designed to be safe, secure and redundant. So we live in the rural countryside. And when we bought the house, we were promised a fibre to the home connection. But because I'm paranoid, and we were coming from another country where we had gigabit fibre connections, which I suspected we wouldn't get it back in drudgery old technologically backward England, I thought I'd make a few precautions. And in fact, we wouldn't even buy the house before we had tested some of these things out. So let's look at the inbound internet, which starts here. So there's a boundary router, which is my device. And eventually, this didn't happen initially, but eventually we had, from an ISP, a fibre network connection to the home. In fact, it was plumbed in from 3 years ago, but it took about a year to arrive. So there's a fibre cable coming in, it goes into an SFP port, and the ISP supplied this router here. Meanwhile, I had my own MikroTik router here, and that could take input from the ISP's internet feed. So going that way. But meanwhile, we had, because this didn't start for a year, we had another MikroTik system here which had multiple internet inputs, so we could choose what input was used for which purpose. The first input was a British Telecom dial-up line, which managed a staggering, I think it was 4 megabits per second, not megabytes per second, 4 megabits per second. We had a 4G SIM-based internet from 3, which was about £30-40 a month, and that was a 12-month contract, and that was limited to I think it was 100 or 200 gigabytes per month, which is not very much. So it was a 200 gigabyte per month cap, and there was a USB connection here into which I could connect a phone and use a tethered in connection. Now, all of the configuration here was done on a MikroTik, and it took me a long time to get things working. And it's one of those configurations, and I think most MikroTik configurers will agree with me, that once it's working, you daren't really touch anything, because if you do the slightest thing, it might all go horribly wrong. And so I had some ability to have 1, 2, 3, and possibly 4 different internet connections, all coming into this boundary router and all being distributed through. So that's on the input side. Then we have 3 categories of networks. Category A is for the smart home, so it's generally insecure. Category B is what I call the secure network. These are all different subnets. Category B is the secure network, and any laptops that we would own or more secure devices that we didn't want to share with the smart home would be attached to this network, either wirelessly or via wire. And thirdly, the ultra-secure network, which was network C, if you like, and that was just purely wired. So these two had wireless capabilities. This was purely wired. Each of these has a firewall. So of course there's a firewall here, there's a firewall here, and there are firewalls here. And of course on every computer system, so there's me on my master workstation here, I've got a firewall here. So to get past and to sort of hack me, it would have to get through 1 firewall, 2 firewall, 3 firewall, 4 firewall. So hopefully there's enough firewalls there to prevent anyone getting in. So recently, I thought I wanted to simplify the configuration because I want to make the configuration more secure and yet simpler. So what have we done? So recently, and this is only about 1 or 2 months ago, after all of this time, it's come to this. So I've completely reprogrammed the boundary router and got rid of all these other internet inbound connections, because now, to be honest, the fibre connection is bulletproof, reliable, and it's even been increased in speed by a couple of hundred megabits. So they've got inbound fibre connection here, fibre to the home, and that goes straight into the boundary router. Now that there is a USB port on this new MikroTik, and with enough reading back of my notes, I suppose if we did have an outage here, I could configure my phone with a USB tether to a 4G. So I'm on a 3 unlimited plan, specifically because I'm paranoid, and if this connection did go down, I'd really have to quickly look at my notes and reprogram this in. But as it stands, this MikroTik doesn't have anything other than this inbound internet connection, but the rest of it is the same. So let's just focus on a minute on the VPN side of things, because that's what we are changing this week. So we've got 2 VPN connections, and one is the inbound VPN connection, which allows us to monitor and manipulate the smart home. So as friends would not be surprised to hear, there must be at least 80, let's call it 100 computers here running the smart home. And sometimes those computers go wrong, and sometimes we're not at home, although of course in the COVID times we are at home, but generally speaking we might be away, we could be away for months. So we want to make sure that our window blinds are closing at the right time. We want to make sure the heating's coming on and going off. We want to make sure the cat feeder is feeding the cat. We want to make sure our security systems are working. Now sometimes those systems break down, and we did have a circuitous route to get through to some of these machines. In fact, there was a Raspberry Pi that was sitting here, and once you could get onto this Raspberry Pi in some secure fashion, which I won't divulge, then that could then go outbound to these other 100 computers. So that was a kind of solution, but it wasn't brilliant. And you could only go outbound to devices that supported SSH protocol predominantly. So we thought, let's have a VPN server. So we're using today, not a Raspberry Pi, we're using something called Pi VPN, and that creates a VPN server here. So if I'm sitting in the outside world here on the internet, on my laptop, on my phone, it's all pre-configured, I can press a button and I can jump straight through this boundary router, and there are rules in this boundary router to say when an inbound connection comes in, please jump to this firewall and through that firewall and to this VPN server. And all that's done using secure keys, and so you can't really hack in without the specific key files. So if the laptop has been stolen, you have to make sure that no one can get into that laptop, because if someone could get into that laptop and log onto that laptop and know how to start the VPN, they could, of course, get into your home network, wherever you are. So that's coming in, that's an inbound device, that's constantly running, waiting for you to connect from the internet. Whereas this guy is an outbound device. So what is this guy doing? Well, we've got secure clients, C1 and C2 here, and supposing I want to pretend to be in Switzerland, which is our old home country. So sometimes we need to log on to a Swiss website, we might have some accounts that we need to look at, or some websites, and they monitor the inbound apparent IP address, and they don't work unless I present a Swiss IP address. So this is an outbound VPN, virtual private network gateway. So without changing anything, any configuration on my secure network on my device here, when I get my DHCP address, it automatically gives me the gateway of this VPN, and this VPN is configured, it's configurable, but it's configurable predominantly to behave like I'm in Switzerland. So simply by being on this network and attaching to the DHCP server, I go through this VPN gateway. The VPN gateway pretends I'm in Switzerland. So any website I launch on this client makes me appear to be in Switzerland or whatever other country I choose. And meanwhile, that's a bit of a total slowdown. So the master machines are on this network here. So the master server workstations are here. Server workstations. So they're here. So if we want, multiple 100 megabit connections, we're connecting on this network. But if we're wanting a Swiss or other country connection, we go out of this VPN gateway. So fundamentally, we've simplified the inbound internet connection, and we've got 2 VPN servers. Now, recently, I was using a company called StreamVia for this connection, and just before Black Friday, about a week before, my subscription expired, and I thought, okay, I'll wait till Black Friday. And I logged in on Black Friday, and could I believe it? They've completely changed their business model such that their normal, it's not so expensive, but it's less than £100 a year, but their model has now completely changed. And what they would like you to do is to have a completely different style of VPN, which is at least £20 a month. So as a quick maths is let's call it £250 a year at least, which I'm not very keen on. I did ask them whether they could restart my old plan, because the old plans are not available to any new customers. And I said, well, I'm a customer, I can still log on with my old user ID and credentials. And amazingly, they said no. So I was very upset and had a look around. And then my wonderful partner said, oh, NordVPN have got this great deal on their VPN connection. So we fast forward to the present day, and we are here. So I didn't think I was going to get this working, but believe it or not, now it is working. The speed isn't quite right, but this is the latest and greatest simplified network connection. So what have we got today? Well, we've got the following. We've got the inbound internet, fiber internet coming in here into the MikroTik, which it's got its own SFP port, fiber port. That's the boundary firewall. And it's got a special configuration, an IPsec configuration, which I don't totally understand. But I've looked at the MikroTik website, I've looked at the NordVPN website, I've typed in a lot of command line configuration information, and eventually, because there were a few mistakes, got this IPsec configuration working and told it only to look at network B. So now, if we're sitting on this secure client network, I pass out to the firewall, I get to the boundary firewall. The rule set in here says, you've come from network B, I better apply the IPsec, and I'll make anyone believe that you're in country X. So I've tried various different countries. On the marketing blurb, you can be in 50 different countries, etc., etc. None of the connections are very quick. I've got 30 days to cancel this program, but so far it is actually working to my great astonishment. So to review the full configuration, there's the boundary firewall, which is a single device. The SmartHome network is network A, as before. It's still got the VPN server on it. So if I want to maintain anything in the SmartHome, I will jump from an outside machine with a key protocol to this VPN server. Once I attach to that VPN server, my laptop, for example, looks like it's on the A network. And so I can start any web-based programs or checking or restarting programs to put right any of these, let's call it between 80 and 100 computers, which is quite a lot, I suppose, but every light switch is its own Linux computer, for example. So alternatively, if I want a secure connection as such, I can pass through to the boundary level firewall and there's a special configuration saying only look at stuff from this subnet and pass it through to the internet. And thirdly, if I'm on the super secure connection on the master workstation or master servers, then they're on network C and they appear to be in the UK. They don't have the benefit of going to this IPsec configuration at all. And that's it. So that's the broad design of the network so far. I think we're getting there. We're down to minimal machines now, and we don't need in the previous configuration we needed a separate Raspberry Pi, which was something that StreamVia did offer. They offered an image you could build, and that would act as the gateway. NordVPN don't offer that possibility, and I tried for some while. I built a Raspberry Pi here, and I installed a NordVPN on here, and added some forwarding rules on multiple interfaces to try and mimic what I had in the previous example. But when I tried to get my secure client to talk to this NordVPN server that I'd built for pass-through, it just didn't work. So having given that up, I was very pleased to find and somewhat amazed to find that this does work. So that's it, Dari. A simplified configuration, hopefully no less secure than before. Most people would say it's possibly a little bit over the top, but better safe than sorry. Thanks for watching, and in the associated WordPress article there will be some more concrete details of how it all works. Thanks for watching.